Hello, 6th grade. I hope all is well. Today for math, we're going to be talking about negative numbers, and this will cover pages 283 and 284 in your textbook. So, the number 0 is often used as a reference point, such as with temperature. Numbers greater than 0 are positive numbers, and less than 0 are negative numbers. If you look at the number line, we have 0 in the middle. Anything over here is positive, anything over here is negative. That -7 is read as -7, and just a 2 by itself is read as either +2 or just 2. If it's a positive number, you don't have to put the word positive in front of it, but if you're talking positives and negatives, you might do that just to make sure you're more clear. And then on a number line, the numbers to the left are less than numbers to the right. So this -3 is less than -2. -1 is less than 4. Anything to the left is less than anything to the right. Okay, on 1A, we are looking at different diagrams, and in those diagrams, we have temperatures. So 1A is that one right there, and I just showed you the answer. 1A, if we look, is right here. Each of these lines is worth 2. So 2, 4, 6. It is below 0, so that would be -6 degrees Celsius. All of these are in Celsius. On B, we're looking, and it's right there. Once again, I can tell that these are worth 2 each, so 0 to 4 would be -4 degrees. C is pretty similar to B, so I'm going to skip over that and go to D. Each of these, each of the large lines is 10. So each of these, 2, 4, 6, 8, they're going to be worth 2. So I could go -32, 34, 36, 38. So that one will be -38 degrees Celsius. Okay. On 2, it wants us to list which number is greater than or less than the other by using the greater than or less than symbol. So -7 and 3. -7 is less than 3, so I'd use this one. Remember, the open end, the larger end, wants to eat the larger number. If you have trouble remembering that, think of this as like a mouth with like teeth, and it wants to eat the bigger number. So there we go. B, 6 degrees and 8 degrees. 8 degrees is larger. C, 0 degrees or -5 degrees. Any negative number is going to be less than 0, so 0 is larger. Okay, on D, we have -4 and +4. Negative numbers are always less than positive numbers, so 4 is larger. E, 15 degrees or 12 degrees. 15 is larger. And F, 0 degree or -1 degree. Negative is smaller than 0, so 0 is larger. Okay, then it wants us to extract the square roots, which is what we did yesterday. The easiest way for me to figure out what the square root of something is to think, what number times itself equals that number? Because it's two numbers that are the same if you multiply them. Well, what times itself equals 81? This is one of those that we should have memorized. 9 times 9 is 81, so the square root of 81 is 9. B, what times itself equals 121? This is another one we should have memorized. 11 times 11 is 121. C, what times itself is 64? Another one we should have memorized. If we have all of our times tables memorized, 8 times 8 is 64. D, we have a fraction, 9/16. Well, Our answer is also going to be a fraction. And it's just like when we would square a fraction. So what times itself equals 9? Well, that's 3. What times itself equals 16? That's 4. So the square root of 9/16 is 3/4. The same with e. We're going to have another fraction. What times itself equals 1? 1. The square root of 1 is 1. What times itself is 4? 2. 2 times 2 is 4. The square root of 1/4 is 1/2. 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. Or another way to think of it, 1/2 of 1/2 is 1/4. And then f, 1.44, the square root of that, well, you might not know the square root of 1.44, but you should know the square root of 144. 12 times 12 is 144. So the square root of 1.44 would be 1.2. Okay? And then the next part, we have some temperature conversions again. I went ahead and included the formula with those so that we don't forget what one we're solving. For A, 34 degrees Fahrenheit, our formula is 9/5 times C plus 32. So 9/5 times 34 over 1, and then eventually we'll add the 32. You can't simplify that. So 34 times 9, well, 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 3 is 30. So that's going to be 306 over 5 plus 32. That does not go into that evenly, but it does go pretty close. So 306 divided by 5. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. Subtract, you get 0. Bring down your 6. 5 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract, you get 1. So you would have your whole number would be 61. Your numerator would be 1. Your denominator would be 5. So 61 and 1/5 plus 32. We're rounding to the nearest whole number. 1/5 is less than half, so it'd just be 61. We'd round down, not up. So 61 plus 32. 2 plus 1 is 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. 34 degrees Celsius is the same as 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. B, 55 degrees Fahrenheit is what Celsius? 5/9 times Fahrenheit minus 32. So 5/9 times 55 minus 32. 55 minus 32. 5 minus 2 is 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. So 5/9 times 23 over 1. Can't simplify. So 23 times 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 2 is 18, 19, 20. And I cross multiplied that, which I should not have done because we don't have a variable we're trying to figure out. So scratch that. It's 23 times 5. And I've been showing you the answer. Hope no one was noticing. 23 times 5. 5 times 3 was 15. 5 times 2 is 10, 11. So then it'd be 115 over 9. 9 does not go into 115 evenly, so we have to divide. 115 divided by 9. 9 goes into 11 once. It is 9. Subtract, you get 2. Bring down your 5. 9 goes into 25 twice. It is 18. Subtract, borrow. 15 minus 8 is 7. So you would get your whole number be 12. Your numerator would be your remainder, just 7. Your denominator would be your 9. So it would be 12 and 7/9. We are still looking for the nearest whole number. So this is more than half, so we'd round up to 13. So 55 degrees Fahrenheit is the same as 13 degrees Celsius. Okay, on 5, we are finding the equivalent decimal. So we have to figure out what that number would be as a decimal. 43%, move your decimal over twice, 1, 2, 0.43. Our percents should be pretty standard by now. We should know these. B, 5/8. Well, we might not have our eighths memorized, so we should, but we should know that 5/8 is 1/8 more than 1/2, because 1/2 is the same as 4/8. So if I don't have my eighths memorized, I can either do 5 divided by 8, like that, add my decimal, and go that way. Or I can figure out the long way by breaking it apart. I'm just going to go ahead and divide so that you can see it easier. 8 goes into 50. Well, I know 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 6 is 48. So 0.6. 6 times 8 is 48, like we said. Subtract 2, bring down your 0. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Subtract 4, add a 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. No remainder. So 5/8 as a decimal is 0.625. Anytime you don't know what a fraction is as a decimal, the top number goes inside the division sign, the bottom number goes on the outside. Okay, C, 2/5. Well, I should know fifths easily, because 5 goes into 100 evenly. 1/5 is 20%, because if I count up, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So each fifth is worth 20%. So 2/5 would be 40%. 40% as a decimal, 0.4. It would be 0.40, but since there's nothing after that 0, you don't need to keep the 0. D, 1 1/2%. Well, 1 1/2, just as a number, is 1.5. Then we have to move our decimal point over 2. So 1, 2, so it'll be 0.015. A lot of us forget to move our decimal and just write 1.5 as the decimal. You still have to move that because it's a percent. Okay, 6, we have a few different types of problems. The first one is 1 hour and 10 minutes minus 25 minutes. Well, I can't take 25 from 10, so I have to borrow. If I have 1 hour, that is 60 minutes. I'll get rid of that. Add 60 minutes to this. 60 plus 10 is 70. So then I'm going to have to borrow again. Make that a 6. Make that a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 6 minus 2 is 4. It would be 45 minutes. C, it's a word problem. If you're paying attention to it, it comes out to be 6 squared minus the square root of 25. So then we have to solve what each of those are. 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. The square root of 25, well, what times itself equals 25? That's when we should have memorized. 5 times 5 equals 25. So then it just becomes 36 minus 5, which is 31. And then F, it gives us the diameter of a circle as 3 3/4 of a foot, and it wants to know what the radius is. Well, to find the radius, I could either divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2. I'm going to multiply by 1/2 since this is already a fraction. I am going to make this a mixed number first, though. So 3 3/4. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 3 would be 15 over 4. And I said I'm going to multiply that by 1/2. So 1/2 of 15 over 4. Another way to think of that is, remember, if I divided it by 2, then that would be 15 over 4 divided by 2 over 1, which then we'd flip and multiply. So we could just kind of skip that step there. So 2 doesn't go into 15, so I can't simplify that any. So it'll be 15 times 1, which will be 15. 4 times 2, which is 8. I can't reduce that, but I can simplify. So 8 goes into 15 one time. There would be 7 left over. 15 minus 8 is 7. So my radius will be 1 7/8 foot. Okay. 7a. The first few are all percentages. They just word them in different ways, so we have to solve them in different ways. It wants to know 109.2 over 780 for a. Well, the first thing I need to do is get rid of this decimal. We won't have a decimal in a fraction. So I move this over 1. And if I move that over 1, then I've got to move this over 1. So basically, I now have 1092 over 7,800. Well, those are both even. So I know they're divisible by 2. I also can figure out that they're both divisible by 4. Anything that ends in double zero is divisible by 4. And I know that 92 is divisible by 4 because, well, 80 is divisible by 4. And then add 12 to that, which is also divisible by 4. So I'm going to divide both of these by 4. So 1092 divided by 4. 4 into 10 goes twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract 2. Bring down my 9. 4 into 28 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Sorry, I meant 4 into 29. Subtract, you get 1. Bring down your 2. 4 into 12 is 3. So my numerator is going to be 273. Now I'm going to divide it into 7,800. So 7,800 divided by 4. 4 into 7 is once. Subtract 3, bring down your 8. 4 into 38 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. 2, bring down your 0. 4 into 20 is 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract, you get 0, bring down your 0. 4 into 0 is 0. So it'd be 1950. Okay, well, I know that 273 and 1950 are not as far as I can go. With that, I need to bring it down even further. I need to see if any other number goes into those. And the easiest way to do that, I know that 2 can't go into both. I know that 3 can, though, because both of these, if I add up all the numbers, are divisible by 3. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 5 is 15, that's divisible by 3. 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 2 is 12, that's divisible by 3. So I'm going to divide both numbers by 3. So 273 divided by 3. 3 goes into 27 9 times. Bring down my 3. 3 into 3 is 1 time. So this becomes 91. 1950 divided by 3. So 1950 divided by 3. 3 into 19 is 6. 18. Subtract, you get 1. Bring down your 5. 3 into 15 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract 0. Bring down your 0. 3 into 0 is 0. So it's 91 over 650. Okay. 91 is a prime number, so there is no further way to reduce it, so now we just have to divide. So with this, we're going to do 91 in here and 650 out here. Going to add a decimal and some zeros. 650 goes into 910 one time, be 650. Subtract 0, gotta borrow, make that an 8, make that an 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. Bring down a 0. 650 into 2600. Well, I know that 650 is almost 600, and 2600 is a nice even number. I know that 6 will go into 26 about 4 times, so I'm going to try that. So I'm going to do 650 times 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24, 25, 26. So it is exactly 0.14. 0.14 as a percent is 14%. I know that was a lot. But sometimes these problems do take a while to solve. Okay, and then B, 0.32 into 19.6. Get rid of your decimal, move it over 2, 1, 2. Move this over 2, 1, 2. 32 into 1,960. Well, 32 into 196. 196 is almost 200. 32 is almost 30. So I'm going to try 32 times 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18, 19. So times 6 will be 192. Subtract 4, 0. 32 into 40 would be, 1 time. 1 times 32 is 32. Subtract. Get 8. Add a 0. Bring down your 0. 32 into 80 would be 2 times. Be 64. Subtract. You would get 6. Break down another 0. 32 into 60 would be 1. And it would keep going on and on. It would be a long decimal, but we're going to stop there. And for B, we would have 61.21. I would even accept if you rounded it down to 61. Either way is fine. We're going to skip the rest of those for now. I think that you can probably solve most of this on your own. It's just review stuff. I hope all of this is making sense. If you have any questions, reach out to me on Jupiter or on Zoom. Stay safe. See you soon.